Right now, the drivers are back on the grid for race 3. Greg Murphy qualified 12th, came 3rd in race 2. That's where he started. Of course, he came 1st in race 2. Cameron McConville, what an effort from him. You'll go all the way back down the end of the field where the 32 cars will come to a halt, and you'll see right down the end a name that we haven't seen down the back before, certainly this season and certainly not for a long time. Paul Wheel is celebrating his 50th start. He's the youngest ever V8 supercar driver to do so. And look at that, Mark Skaife will start from position number 31 on the last row of the grid. Alongside him is Mark Larkham. Some of the drivers that are also trapped down there, Todd Kelly, Craig Lowndes, Russell Ingall, Stephen Ellery, Garth Tander, they're all within 3 rows of each other. Skaife said it's going to be very interesting. Here we go, race 3. Murphy on pole position. Jason Bright starts where he started all weekend. Big wheel spin from Bright and the Holden Racing Team Commodore. They shoot off to the left and the right, but Murphy's clean. Through turn 1, the Kmart Commodore gets the lead. Jason Richards shoots off around the outside, but no trouble so far. What about the back of the pack? There's Ellery, Ingall, and Skaife as well.
What about the start by Neil Crompton too? He's up into 4th. He really bolted off the line there. He'd be happy with that getaway. Look at them pushed out over the dirt and the marbles and the garbage offline. Jason Richards manages to get the Team Kiwi Commodore back into the queue as they plunge over Barbagallo corner and down toward Cole for the first time. What a fantastic sight. 32 V8 supercars all leaning on each other. You can see the quality down toward the rear of this grid. Just an indication of what a topsy-turvy ride we've had this weekend, with fortunes changing by the second.
Yep, you've certainly got to keep your eyes closely focused on the entire field here, because as we saw in race 2, just simple brain explosions and the whole place goes mad. Air temperature 18 degrees outside. The weather is changing though. It'll be getting cooler as the afternoon goes on. It is a question of tyres. Who's got the best ones left? It's a question of whether Mark Skaife can work his way up through the field and maybe keep that incredible streak alive. There he is, car number 1. He's wasted no time.
Look, he's alongside Lowndes. They're 3 wide as they come through the first turn. Craig Lowndes on his outside. Stephen Ellery in there too. Todd Kelly, he had to make an engine change after race 2. So all these quality cars are starting off the back. You get the impression they're going to come in pretty early, I'd say, and try and leapfrog the field. They don't really have a choice because there's an awful lot of traffic ahead of them.
Pit window opens on lap 2, closes on lap 30, and like you've seen all weekend, they'll throw the dice. We understand that Mark Skaife is going to come in early, so we'll keep our eyes on him for you. That's a good battle right there, Skaife and Lowndes. There's Todd Kelly.
Looking out the back of Craig Lowndes' car, here he is, and again, a weekend so full of promise ended in disaster for Double O Motorsport when Todd Kelly turned him around, and that looks like, I'm not sure if that door's not closed properly, but that window frame certainly flexing in the breeze onside the Double O Motorsport Falcon. Look at the amount of traffic here on pit straight. So the next time they come round, they will be able to peel off into pit lane to do their compulsory stops. The pit window now is open. Mark Skaife trying to make as much ground up as he can before he comes in for that compulsory stop. You're on board with the reigning champ. Up behind the Pertec Falcon of Marcus Ambrose. Another driver in trouble in race 2 with a power steering failure. Managed to finish the race with no power steering. So he's certainly given his arms a workout here. Great shot as they come down toward Cole corner. Skaife has no choice but to sit in the queue at the moment. There's a lot of quality cars around him. Very fast machinery. The topsy-turvy roll of fortunes here has really turned the grid upside down. There's a lot of good cars at the wrong end of the field.
He's already moved up 5 positions. That's Marcus Ambrose in front of Mark Skaife. Here they come into turn 7. Problems for John Bowe. Understand that Neil Crompton might have been tangled up in that as well. That'd be a bad situation for Crompton if he does find himself on the wrong side of the race officials, because he's had an electrifying start.
We're just going to have to be careful on the exit here.
Oh,
we might
that's
get
close.
boxed, but we'll just make that call.
Here comes Mark Skaife. Come in with a whole bunch of cars. He's got to go right down to the end of pit lane to reach the HRT bay. Here he comes. Crew's waiting and ready. Shell Helix pit stop clock tells the story. This crew well drilled. Kmart's been the fastest though. We saw a sub 7-second stop in race 2. 7.7. So that's a second faster than they managed yesterday on the number 1 car. Skaife gets back into action. Well, what's going to happen here? Pretty confident the Holden Racing team has a good set of tyres to put onto the car. You'd want it if you're coming in that early on a 42-lap race around Barbagallo Raceway.
Back to turn 7, and John Bauer gets around, so that is Neil Crompton behind him. Don't know if he was involved in it or not, but John Bauer manages to get out of that with not too much damage. Rusty?
Sounds like John Bauer has been on the radio to the team, and he sounds a little annoyed at Neil Crompton at the moment. He said, I gave him the signal that I was pitting this time round. So it'll be interesting to see just what comes of that. Also, too, from the 00 Motorsport camp, a possible drive-through penalty coming, I would think, for car 7, Rodney Forbes. A pit infringement, the wheel nut rolled into the fast lane during Rodney's stop.
Could have a broken Watts linkage or something failed in the rear suspension of the Team Brock Commodore, and Mark Larkham has buried the Orcon Ford.
And Tony Longhurst follows him through as well. So that's a turn 6 cold corner. That's the one where we saw Anthony Tratt go off in race 2 and Scaife as well. So maybe Larkham left something behind that Longhurst found on his way through. And Greg Murphy,
race leader. Boy, oh boy, it's turning upside down. There goes Neil Crompton to go through to the lead of the race. Murphy chooses to come in and get his compulsory stop out of the way, but look at the amount of dirt and sand in those air intakes.
And there's Craig Lowndes, so there's definitely oil down there at turn 7. That's on the way into pit lane entry. You can see that Lowndes gets on his way in there too, so definitely Lowndes slots it in the hole there at pit lane, and let's just check his pit stop time. 7.7 seconds for Mark Scaife. Confirmation that oil's all over the track down at turn 7. That's a dangerous spot, Nova's corner. They're taking their time here, way too much time.
What we're hearing is that there are problems. Also,
there you go,
for
Stephen
Richards. So there's a massive amount of oil. I believe that was from the Team Brock Commodore. That's smoke pouring from the back of the car. We were first told it was the tyres rubbing on the guards, but apparently there's been a major mechanical failure. He's dumped a ton of oil, and it's catching out an awful lot of cars. Look how long Craig Lowndes has been in pit lane as they try and get all the dirt and garbage out of those air intakes. He's apologised to the crew for the mistake. So this has not been a good weekend. Once we always say it, Matty, potential unfulfilled with 00 Motorsport. We've seen it a number of rounds now where Lowndes has had a lot of speed. Things have always gone wrong.
It's not a matter of whether the door's open in front of you. It's a matter of how you get into it and how far you walk into it. Now, this is Greg Murphy at turn 1. You saw so many guys do this in qualifying. Look at that. You can just imagine the amount of dirt that's going up through into the radiator after that big
Well, you could see the way the wheel just was not responding to his input. He was on the oil then, and same fate befell Craig Lowndes. So I think it was the Team Brock Commodore that dumped all that slippery stuff on the bitumen.
On TVNZ, you're watching the VB 300 from Barbagallo Raceway in Western Australia as the safety car starts to pull people through and lets them pass the Monroe safety car as we try and work out the order of this race. At the moment, Tony Longhurst and Mark Larkham are in no shape to continue, beached at turn 6.
And there's Anthony Tratt as well. He got caught out on the oil from the Team Brock Commodore. It's dumped a ton of oil on the circuit. Caught out Greg Murphy, caught out Craig Lowndes. A number of others. Anthony Tratt was the last one to get caught out by the oily. And let's put him right off into the sand trap. The Monroe safety car now trying to pick up the race leader. There was a lot of confusion there, but they have finally picked up the correct car, which is David Bernard. Well, confusion reigns out there at the moment, Matthew, because the officials are trying to pick up the actual race leader, and as the cars trip the transponders in pit lane and they try and get the order back, the nominated leader of the race is changing all the time. So we'll just leave it for a few moments and let this whole thing settle down after a rash of pit stops at a time when the safety car came out. Yeah, it's a very difficult situation down there in pit lane because everyone's monitoring the performance of their own cars. They know where they should be.
Greg Murphy in the Kmart Commodore, car number 51, our winner of race 2, ends up in the ditch but managed to get out of it. Stephen Richards at the other end of the straight at turn 7 also goes off as well. And some oil left down by Craig Baird in the Team Brock Commodore was the problem for all of that. And also Anthony Tratt gets a big lockup coming down the hill. and shoots straight off as well. He's not alone out there on the beach. There have been plenty before him and probably plenty more still to come. So we're under safety car conditions under here, and the Monroe safety car has managed to get it right. While we've been in the break, there's been plenty of confusion. We've actually seen a number of cars get called through while they picked up the right race leader, and Bright is the right man for the job, but it took them a while to get it done. And I can tell you that up and down pit lane, there's anger, confusion, and a little bit of disillusionment from all corners. It was actually the Stone Brothers racing guys who corrected the race officials and made sure that Jason Bright was up there, not David Bernard. So some teamwork gets us back underway. So we're ready to race once more. Jason Bright, there's Tratt and Wheel. David Bernard. Race 3 continues under a restart. 26 laps to go. And some problems back there for one of the better electrical cars.
Okay, so the order at the moment is Jason Bright, David Bernard in second, Neil Crompton in third, Greg Murphy in fourth, Brad Jones in fifth, Paul Morris, Mark Scaife up to seventh, Todd Kelly in eighth, Jason Barbagallo in ninth, and Cam McConville in 10th. It's been a confusing few moments on the track, but that's the way the Natsoff Dorian system is showing us on the official timing screen. And that's what we're going with. There's David Bernard in second. There's Neil Crompton, who ducked into the pits after briefly being a race leader. He's now found himself in a very competitive third spot, having made his compulsory stop.
He's already having his best weekend, Cromley, and this is the place of his best ever race round finish. In fact, in the V8 Supercar Championship, or in a Touring Car Championship, he finished third here back in 1993. So
he's just been taken by Greg Murphy too, by the look of it. So he's ducked in behind the Kmart car. Murphy now moves up to second. He's been fast all week, the Murph, in the Kmart Commodore. Crompton ducks in behind. He goes back to fourth spot. Now, we hear from race control that officials are going to spoil Crompton's weekend. There's a drive-through penalty being applied to Crompton for that incident where he collided with John Bow early in the race. So Crompton now is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty. Cost him about 22 seconds. That'll put him right out of contention.
Just correct that too. It was actually a second place overall back here at Barbagallo in 93 for Cromley. So, as you say, he's about to get a rude shock when he comes around and has to do 22 seconds worth of 40 kilometres an hour from top to bottom of pit lane. So Greg Murphy comes over the rise. There's Cromley. He's got one light flashing.
Peels off into pit lane. He'll hit the agonisingly slow 40-kilometre-hour speed limiter. You can see he's got everything locked up, trying to minimise his time loss as he starts that long drive down pit lane.
The race score has Bright, Bernard and Murphy 1, 2 and 3. Then Jones, Morris, Todd Kelly, Mark Scaife, Jason Bargwana, Garth Tander and Cameron McConville. From the Lansvale Smash Repairs team in 10th position, you can see Seaton in 16th and Max Wilson holding down 20th.
So Jason Bright now, got to get his head down. He's looking very strong for an overall round win here. The way it stands at the moment, he's got the biggest points haul from the day, and that could be the first victory for Jason Bright in season 2002. You hear that Rodney Forbes has also been awarded a penalty.
Oh, Marcus Ambrose gets tangled up with Russell Ingall.
Gave him a big hit on the exit to Cold Turn, and even more elbow-to-elbow work. The enforcer doing a bit of enforcing here. They're going side by side under brakes down into Nova's turn.
And look at the gap that Paul Radicic is taking a little look at in between these two.
And he gets through, yes. So Radicic, the aggressor, as he finds a gap and follows Marcus Ambrose through. So Russell Ingall loses 2 spots in that altercation. Plenty of biff and barge.
Sorry, Mark, the scenario overall, like you just mentioned, Jason Bright could be heading for a round victory now. Basically, Greg Murphy or Jason Bright need to win. If one of those guys win, they'll win the round overall if they win this race. Now, if one of those guys or both of those guys don't win, then it's left to some guys like Scaife, Bow, Longhurst, Bernard, and Crompton, although his weekend has just been wrecked by a drive-through penalty, which Rodney Forbes has also gone in as well. So some interesting numbers to crunch at the end of this race. Let's take a look at all this bargy-argy stuff going on as they got very close, a little too close, between Ambrose and Ingall, and then backed it up again.
This is on board Ingall's car. Looking across at the Pertec Ford, there's a collision, 1 or 2 hits there between the Ford and the Holden. They were still side by side at 240 k's, plunging down into Nova's corner, hard under brakes. Now Paul Radicic saw an opportunity here, stuck the nose of the Shell car right up behind the Pertec Ford, and muscled his way through on the inside. The Nintendo replay brings it to you as it happens from on board the Castrol Commodore. Jason Bright, 2.7 seconds the lead over David Bernard. Bernard, meanwhile, has just set the fastest lap of this race, a 59.35, and that's significant. The cloud covers come over, the temperature here has dropped quite significantly, and we saw races in the sunny conditions with the lap times sweating out to about a high 60-second bracket. Now they're consistently running in the mid-59s, so maybe this cooler conditions helping the tyres, helping the cars find a bit more speed.
Yeah, I'm with Gary Rogers. Gary, you're not too happy.
Well, Baz, I mean, here's the proof, isn't it? Here's the Keystone Cops at their best yet again. I mean, we know what happened in Adelaide. I've been fighting about it for 2 months. I don't know how much I've spent. Clearly, any fool would have known who the leader of that race was. I mean, the public come to see the race. They don't want to see the race run under the pace car. Wouldn't happen in NASCAR. They should take some example from a category that knows what it's doing.
So you're really not too pleased then, Gary, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay, sums it up, I reckon.
Barry Sheen, the master of understatement.
And Gary Rogers, the master of blatant statement. Just recapping exactly what Gary's talking about there while we're in the break. The Munro safety car was out and it actually picked up the wrong leader. It had David Bernard as the first car behind him, but Jason Bright was in fact the leader of the race. So we had to wait while they shuffled the field around and let all the cars go past. So the safety car picked up Bright and got the order right. That's what Gary Rogers is getting upset about, the fact that they had to waste about 3 or 4 laps while they got it all sorted out.
Well, the one thing I'm grateful for is they did get it all sorted out before we went back to green flag racing. It would have been worse if they went off half-cocked and restarted the race with the cars not in the right position. So we know that the cars, where they are on the track now, is where they should be. Here's our race leader, Jason Bright. He's just opening up that gap. 2.7 it was. Now it's down to 2.5. So Bernard is responding. A 59.85 for Bright, a 59.78 for the Haviland Ford. And there's the comparison of the last 5 lap times. And you can see it's a pretty even contest. Swapping fastest laps between them as David Bernard tries to hunt down the Holden Racing Team Commodore. Bernard's looking good here too for a consistent performance. He may even be on the podium if he continues to put this race together.
Just had a look down at Neil Crompton's position. He's now back in 26th. So that drive-through penalty cost him around 20 positions.
For the order, Jason Bright, 2.5 seconds was the lead last time. Fastest lap times of the race so far. That's quite impressive. We saw them starting to sort of stretch out over 60 seconds yesterday. And now they're all hovering around the mid-59s. So I'm not sure if that's a result of the cooler weather conditions, but we expected by the time they got to race 3 they'd be running around on shreds of tyres. But certainly these Dunlop control tyres have hung together particularly well on what is considered one of the nastiest circuits in the country on tyre wear.
Let's go round this circuit now in the back seat of the Kmart Commodore, car number 51, and just keep your eyes on the telemetry and also the view out the windscreen there as he comes up over Barbagallo corner. Turn 6, Kolb corner.
Murphy in 3rd spot. You can see David Bernard up ahead of him. Has not been able to make an impression on the Haviland Ford. This is an absorbing battle. It just goes to show how the Stone brothers now are taking the fight up to TWR, making the cars. The cars have always been quick, but they haven't been as sympathetic to their rear tyres. But it looks like they're starting to get some consistency in the chassis in terms of looking after the rubber as well. So it looks like we've got a real fight on our hands here. Murphy's got a little bit of traffic between himself and Bernard. It's one of the better electrical Fords. He ducks down the inside. So now he's got clear track ahead of him. So Bernard fighting a lone hand here. Brad Jones is back in 4th. Just out of this battle, about 2.6 seconds.
Well, Garth Tander just got through past Mark Scaife. They were 6 and 7
No worries.
coming around the end of that lap, and now Garth Tander gets hold of position 6 and Scaife drops back to 7th.
Well, an amazing run of success so far for Mark Scaife. Looks like it's going to come to an end here though in WA. He really has dominated the opening 5 rounds of the championship. But it all went wrong for him in race 2 earlier on this afternoon. 2 wild trips across the country as well as a drive-through penalty. Now he's in damage control, trying to amass as many points as he can. But he's really not under that much pressure points-wise. He has a massive lead in the championship. Let's have a look at the Nintendo replay. This is the pass that Garth Tander made. Just a little kiss on the back. He couldn't get any closer than that. And he ducks to the inside and obviously got a much better run out of Cold Corner.
Makes life difficult for the drivers, like they're driving on marshmallow.
Well, there's no doubt these cooler conditions are helping them out here. And everyone's probably put together a pretty good set of tyres for this final stint, because the times are pretty close and consistent. And everyone operating in the high 59, low 60-second bracket. That's surprised a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people would have thought these cars by now, with what tyres they had remaining, would have been much slower than that. Mark Larkham in pit lane. Georg Falcon comes in for his tyre change. It will be his second visit to pit lane this afternoon. There's Todd Kelly coming under increasing fire from Garth Tander. This is the battle for 5th place. Remember the Konica series, it's been a ripper this year. Round 4 moves to Winton Raceway in rural Victoria. That's over the weekend of July 6th and 7th. So if you want some great V8 supercar action, make sure you get there. And speaking of trackside, you can see all the action on trackside from 3 o'clock the following weekend.
RPMlive.tv is the website for our motorsport show. Sunday afternoons on Network 10, hosted by Billy Woods, of course, with special comments from Barry Sheen and Daryl Beattie and the entire 10 Motorsport team. RPMlive.tv. I showed you the merchandise earlier. You can check that out there. Also, the latest news, Woodsy's editorial and feedback line as well. Let us know what you think about motorsport in general, motorsport on 10, whatever you want to say, we'll listen to it. So Todd Kelly is getting some pressure with lights on from the Western Australian in the seat. Garth Tander, car number 34.
Tander's doing well. His teammate Barbagallo moving up as well. He's in 8th. This has been a pretty strong show of speed from the Gary Rogers stable. It was unfortunate that Garth broke that rear suspension component yesterday because he was really well positioned. But you can see here the car is very, very quick. It's the battle for 5th. Todd Kelly moved up a massive amount of places after starting right down the back. Had an engine failure in race 2. Boys did a very quick engine change, and through some really good pit strategy and obvious race speed, Todd Kelly has managed to leapfrog the field up to 5th. Garth Tander now trying to hunt him down. He's put in a lot of work this weekend, Garth Tander, in front of his home crowd. And the car working very well with Scaife having a pretty lonely race there. There's Barbagallo, his teammate. Cameron McConville in 9th. Marcus Ambrose in 10th. So this is survival of the fittest. It really has been a battle of the tyres all weekend. And now they're down to their final sets. 60.05 for Jason Bright. Incredibly consistent in the Holden Racing Team. Commodore leading this one. 2 seconds, the gap over David Bernard. So there's no way he's getting away from that Haviland Ford. We've got a real fight on our hands between the Stone brothers and the TWR team.
Gee, you think it just couldn't be any more different for guys like Scaife and Radicic. Radicic, especially from last year, comes here and does a clean sweep and ends up the overall round winner. Of course, this time around, he's just having a shocker of a weekend. The whole Shell Helix Racing team have been right behind the 8 ball since they got here. Radicic in 16th position. And then think back to Canberra, our last round, when Scaife pretty much did nothing special all weekend and took out the Canberra 400, the Stegbar 400. Well, here in race 2, absolutely everything went wrong for him. So it's all turned around in a flash. We're on board with Marcus Ambrose. He's just behind that group that we've been watching of Jason Barbagallo and Cameron McConville. So Ambrose in 10th position at the moment. Single file. They've all settled down a little bit since they were going into corners 3 abreast when this thing started.
60.13 for Jason Bright, 60.19 for David Bernard. In the battle for the lead, it's down to 100ths of a second now, if you can believe that, at this stage of the weekend. 32 laps gone of 42, 10 remaining in this, the final race of round 6. And it's been an absolute thriller.
Guys, the reason it's been a thriller, particularly this 3rd and final race, there was an enormous amount of juggling before this race started on tyres. The guys went through their 12 allocated tyres for the weekend. They were trying to pick the best ones for this race. Now, this has just come off Mark Larkham's tyre. We talked at the top of the program about how they might end up being like a cheese grater after going across the surface here. There's such an abrasive surface here at Wanneroo. But look at the damage to this tyre off Mark Larkham's car. He went to about mid-race distance before having to change it. But you can see how much it's perished during its torturous run at Wanneroo.
Yeah, they certainly get a workout. That's a graphic demonstration. Greg Rust on the spot, showing you just what these tyres go through.
It's like a cat's got its claws on. Just rip the living daylights out of it. Inside, Paul Radicic goes on Max Wilson, and Glenn Seaton gets it a little bit sideways coming around there.
John Bowe wants to fight as well. This is just at the back of the top 20. So there's battle groups right up and down through the field. We try and show them, or show you as many of them as we can throughout a race meeting. And the level of competition throughout the pack, they tend to break up into little groups. And the level of intensity within those groups is quite extraordinary. Here's John Bowe trying to fight his way back. He's in 18th spot. After that tangle with Neil Crompton, Crompton served his penalty with a drive-through. But quite often it's the man who receives, or who's on the raw end of the stick, gets served up even worse because you lose so much position. John Bowe's right back there after looking so competitive with that great third-place finish in race 2.
Seaton's in 19th, Lowndes is in 20th. Four-time winner at this circuit, but never in a Ford, and not this time around. Seaton holds on to his position.
There's Crompton fighting his way back too after that drive-through, on board with Craig Lowndes up the inside of the Ford Credit Falcon. But it's a fairly futile exercise for Lowndes. He's right back there in 20th spot, fighting over 20th. So once again, the Double O Motorsport team struggling to get a result. You know, they come out pretty quick out of the box when they arrive here. Just things not going their way once again.
Second for second around this circuit.
Yeah.
Wright still has the lead over Bernard, and gee, I mean, there's not much they can do now, is there? 8 laps to go. You can't imagine that Jason Bright and the Holden Racing team are going to self-implode, but Lowndes now comes up on the inside of Paul Radicic. Sneaks through there as well.
You see Jason Richards and the Team Kiwi Commodore. He's racing in some pretty illustrious company there. And the Team Kiwi Commodore, they've been the big improvers of 2002. No doubt about it. But they're right in here, mixing it up with some of the big names in the sport. And there's your order, the yellow boxes on the side of the PlayStation race score, as Jason Richards sneaks up the inside of Paul Radicic. Contact there between those two cars as well. But he manages to pull off the manoeuvre.
So troubles for Paul Radicic, car number 18 in the Shell Helix Ford Falcon. We're heading to the home stretch in race 3. Bright has it at the moment, 2.3 seconds behind is the Ford Challenge of David Bernard. Greg Murphy in 3rd position. Then it's Jones, Kelly, Tander, Skate, Barbagallo, McConville, Marcus Ambrose. At this rate, Jason Bright will be our overall round winner.
Nice clean move by the veteran John Bowe as he sneaks up the inside of the better electrical Ford. John Bowe now moves up to 17th spot. Or is that 16th now? 16th spot, so he's clawing his way toward the top 10 in a car that's been very, very quick all weekend, but just out of luck. Not so this man, Jason Bright. He was there to take over the reins when his teammate faltered, and he's done an excellent job in maintaining this incredible winning record for Holden Racing Team in 2002.
0.2, 5 laps to go, mate. 2.2.
Team just giving him the gap over David Bernard in the Haviland Ford. Bernard really has been a standout performer in 2002. He had a shocking rookie season, but he's really got his act together this year. Very consistent and very fast.
Well, car 18 is in pit lane. It is over for this round, and Paul Radicic, can you believe what a difference 12 months have made? What has happened to this car? It's undrivable, I understand.
Yeah, it's the best way to describe it. We during practice we were right up in the top 6 to top 7, and then we put on the new batch of so-called Dunlop tyres, and we just went backwards. The car just will not put its power down, will not turn in, and the tyres just deteriorate. And you know, the first set there started off fine in the first part of this race, and then just dropped away rapidly. And to finish it off, I think Jason Richards there hit me and washed me wide, and I come across and it bent the front steering arm.
Are you concerned about a bad batch of Dunlop rubber?
Well, they are, from what we can work out, a new compound, and they've seemed to have affected us. You know, we back-to-backed them with an older compound tyre, and it was half a second quicker. So we have to say for us, that was the case.
Hard luck.
Yeah, what a difference 12 months makes. Shell team absolutely dominant. Paul Radicic pole position and 3 race wins. And look what's happened to the Shell team in 2002. Really struggling, particularly here at WA. But this man, as I said, David Bernard, has really done an outstanding job in 2002. He stepped up to the plate where Marcus Ambrose has had poor weekends. David Bernard has been able to step in and give a strong result for the Stone Brothers operation. Full credit to Ross and Jim Stone for persevering with David Bernard. There was a time last year where he was just caught up in so many accidents and having so much trouble. Really, a lot of people predicted his departure from the team, but they've stuck with him, and this year he's really delivered. 9th in the Shell Championship points standings, and he'll get another good points haul from this weekend.
Yeah, the best way to deliver is to be consistent in this championship, and that was David Bernard's goal, wasn't it? He just said, we'll just keep chipping away and try and keep moving up at every round. That's what he's been doing. He's going to come out of here with another 122 points, all things being equal towards the end of this race. Greg Murphy, this guy will, at this stage, finish 2nd overall. Bradley Jones in car number 21 is in 4th on the road. So they go arm wrestle for arm wrestle, the Aussie male team. They managed to bounce back when things get thrown in their face, and you can see the times there, the difference between the car in front of him and the car behind.
Look at that, it's down to hundredths in most cases, isn't it? Hundredths of a second. 5 100ths, 2 100ths, 9 100ths, not even a 10th of a second around a 2.4 kilometre circuit. Just shows how competitive these cars are at the moment. There may be some people at home worrying about the future of the Aussie male sponsorship of the Brad Jones team following the collapse of parent company WorldCom. Well, the word from the team is that it's business as usual, and let's hope that it can continue, because they really are starting to hit their straps in 2002.
Good bunch of guys too. They enjoy their racing. They're having a good time this year. Kim and Brad Jones are characters enough as it is. Throw John Bower into the mix, you got yourself a whole lot of fun. There's the battle group that you're looking 5th and 6th. Todd Kelly and Garth Tander.
I saw Garth launching an attack a few laps ago, but he still hasn't been able to find a way around this car. Bright still the race leader, 1.6 seconds the gap between himself and Bernard, but you get the impression that Jason may be just backing it off a bit with the end of the race in sight. Final lap coming up indeed for our race leader, and this is the first time we'll not see Mark Scaife on the podium in the V8 Supercar Championship in 2002. Currently in 7th position, and it all went wrong for the champ in race 2. But there's no doubt about it, he's picked the right race meeting to falter. He's done so well in the double points rounds. That's what's given him such a huge dominance of the points situation. But this one's only 80 points per race, so the damage to his championship lead will be minimised.
Yeah, plus he got 80 points out of race 1, so if you're going to miss out on points, you've got to make sure that you get maximum in the bag before you start to dip out. So Jason Bright now comes around in car number 2. The Scaife streak comes to an end, but the Holden Racing team just keeps on winning. Jason Bright wins in WA and flashes the lights to celebrate his first race victory of the year. Make that his 2nd. He took one out at Hidden Valley, so Bright comes across in 1st. Bernard 2nd, Murphy 3rd, Brad Jones 4th, Todd Kelly 5th, Garth Tander in 6th, Scaife 7th, Barbagallo comes across there in 8th, and Cameron McConville is 9th, and Marcus Ambrose in 10th. That means overall, like Marco just said, that Scaife will be off the podium for the first time. The podium overall will be like this. Bright, that man, is not only the race 3 winner, but the round winner.